Connor Rogers just dropped a brand new mock draft, so I am here to review it. What is going on? It is Alex coming back at you with another video. Would love for you to join the community. Feel free to hit that like button, comment, subscribe. We're going to be on our way to 10K. My life is now starting to slowly get in order after the first week of school and first week of my brand new job. So we're going to be back on track with more videos. So wanted to review this. I looked it up and I was like, holy crap. It is literally 1 in the morning. Y'all see my Louis Vuitton eye bags. It's a struggle, but I love y'all. Want to make sure you guys get some good content because we have been grinding over on Draft Bros as well. Brosho and I have an equal partnership in a show, so check out our show. We actually go over our top 5 tight ends that are going to be dropping in the next couple of days as well. So keep your eyes out for that because I have yet to post the tight ends video because I've been studying them, which is great. So let's get right into this. Let's have some fun. Starting off with the number 1 overall selection. I can guarantee you, yep, betting odds. There we go. Just so that they don't take any flack for it. Cardinals go Caleb Williams. I don't know what happened to the pictures of Caleb, but it is what it is. Caleb is obviously the best player in the class. He just is there's something different about him. His playmaking ability is off the charts. Best quarterback that I've ever graded. But to be fair, I've only had a grading scale for a couple of years. It used to be more anecdotal and qualitative. Now it's more quantitative to be able to back up how I feel when watching him. So Caleb is spectacular, but at the same time, you got a shit ton of money you're paying to Kyler. I personally think, I'm going to scroll down so you guys don't have to see that annoying ass ad, but I think personally, I don't want Caleb going to this team right now. There's going to be a whole lot of drama. There's a whole lot of dead money there. It's just not the best for either party. Arizona, out of respect for Caleb Williams and the fans being able to watch this whole thing melt down between Kyler and Caleb and, the locker room getting shredded apart. I think that, being able to trade this pick, get a ton of draft capital, who knows, move back to 4 or 3. Well, in this case, not 3 because the Colts, spoiler alert, are the 3rd worst team in terms of betting odds. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would love to move up to this spot. So trade up with the Bucs. Trade down with the Bucs, and you guys know what I'm saying. And be able to pick up a first, maybe a future second. Just be able to get some really good draft capital. Or trade back a little bit further with a team that isn't as actually loaded outside the QB position as the Bucs. Regardless, out of respect, I think Caleb Williams should go somewhere else. And you and I are both extremely bored of seeing Caleb Williams at that number 1 position. Number 2, the Cardinals going Marvin Harrison Jr. He's been tracked up to 23 miles per hour, which is ridiculous because one of his big knocks is his speed. He was kind of more that 4.5 range, not in that 4.44 or 4.3 range by any stretch. So, he's the best wide receiver to come out to me since Jamar Chase. I was worried about Jamar because he took that year off, but that's just such a weird time. It really is such a weird time. So I am glad to see that now we're just being able to enjoy Jamar, but then we'll also be able to enjoy Marvin Harrison too. If he ends up boosting up that speed, there's no telling what he could be. After the catch, not necessarily the best at forcing missed tackles. I think that's my only other knock on him. But when I re-release my wide receivers video, which is going to have a new grading scale, so feel free to check out my edge and D-line video because that's going to be exactly what it's like, then we'll be able to break it down even further. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is a stud. I would not move out of the number 2 overall selection if you do have it. Colts then going Olu Fashanu. I know that PFF has him as their number 4 overall player and number 1 offensive tackle. There's these tools Olu has. The one thing he doesn't have is an anchor. He really does get pushed back very easily. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of tackles that can't hold their ground very well. Granted, I think that's something you can learn, but when it comes to the intricacy of the game, holding the pocket is just what allows quarterbacks to feel comfortable going through their progressions and not just bailing out too early. You build that trust with your QB. I think Olu is a great tackle. I think that he has already shown tremendous growth for his age and experience, but that doesn't mean he's a finished product, nor is he ready. Do I think the Colts would be a bad destination? Absolutely not. I think it would be a very good destination for him to go. They're a young organization with really good coaching, a great young quarterback, and a lot of young pieces. But the simple fact is that he's maybe not the best day 1 impact. But if you want to take that risk, I don't know how much better than Bernard Ryman Olu Fashanu is going to be in year number 1. I can tell you he's going to be a lot better in year number 3. But are you wanting to wait? Or do you want to get the day 1 impact, which is Joe Alt? That's going to be the ultimate question. So I think this is a good pick regardless. I'm not going to shame having to go after an offensive lineman right here. Tampa Bay then going Drake May. Not going to shame it. Again, I think he's going to end up being my QB number 2. But I think that personally, his inconsistency with his placement is what turns me off a little bit about his overall gameplay. Still think he's a great player, just maybe not as good as what some people want to believe at the moment. Again, that is extremely subject to change. Raiders and going Jarzon Newton. I love that. So you're pretty much building the exact opposite of what the Raiders were known for a while ago, which is the Raiders were known for having a crap D-line. They didn't have anything on the interior. Their edge rushing was kind of mediocre. All of a sudden, Max Crosby was a hit late round. And then you have Chandler Jones that comes in. And now you have Tyree Wilson. And now you have Jarzon Newton helping out that interior. I love seeing that. I think that for probably a brand new regime, if they are here at number 5, we're going to see a lot of those coaches getting, offed, so to speak. I think that they usually go after a more safe pick than anything, and Jarzon is the definition of safe. He's an elite hand fighter. You already know he's going to be an addition to this team. So similar to, it actually reminds me of when Derek Brown was selected for the Carolina Panthers. This feels very similar to that. New regime wanting to get a hit on a player, and this is a great position to do so because it's honestly a huge need as well. Titans then going Brock Bowers. I think the talent is honestly too good to pass on. I have him listed here as a weapon because, as a matter of fact, he is graded the exact same as Johnny Wilson as a wide receiver. I now grade all my tight ends as wide receivers as well. I have 2 separate grading scales to see how they would be as just a normal standard tight end versus how they'd be as a receiver because different grading scales, different criteria, and Brock Bowers is elite in both of them. So he's an amazing player. I don't think he should be on the Mount Rushmore. Maybe he should be on the Mount Rushmore of tight ends that I have seen. But I don't think that he should be noted as the best of the best. I think Kyle Pitts he was just a different being. He's just different. And there's better tight ends that have probably come in the past before I started scouting. So I'm going to say let's pump the brakes on Brock being the best of the best. But I think something that not many people like to bring up about him is the fact that he's really good as a blocker. And you know what? Because I love you guys, I'm actually going to end up increasing the size of this page because, again, it usually is boosted, but there you guys go. But, Brock as a blocker is top tier. No one really talks about it, but he's the best blocking tight end I've ever seen. I'll just throw that in there. I just talked about him not being the GOAT, but, the one thing that people don't talk about, I think he's the best at. Then we got the Rams going Jared Verse here. This is so much better. Wouldn't you agree? This is way more pleasing. I should have restarted the video, but who cares about those first picks? They're the same ones every damn time. So Rams going Jared Verse here. So I personally love the idea of the Rams getting more impact players. I think given the amount of injuries this team has continuously faced throughout the years, I would try to go for the guys who are a little bit more consistently, I can't say healthy because apart from Dallas Turner, who, again, he's my number 1 edge rusher, so maybe I'm a little bit biased there. But Jared Verse had his ankle injury last year. That limited him for part of the year. Braylon Trice had to play with a damn club, so I can't really talk about that. So I guess I'd just be down to Dallas Turner. So I can't really criticize this that much. I was trying to find a way to nitpick it, but you're still getting my number 8 player at number 7, which is incredible value for a team, and especially a defense that desperately needs some help. Chicago Bears going Chop Robinson, one of those guys who I'm not a fan of remotely. I called him Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for the fact that he kind of seems for part of the game to become a much better, much different player of himself. And it's good to see that he has that. But I don't want to see a good player 1 out of every 5 reps. I want to see a good player 4 out of every 5 reps. That starts making me feel comfortable. And Chop just doesn't have that consistency yet. Does that mean he can't have it? No, he definitely can. But when I see you having a hard time bending around, why do I want to call him Orlando Brown? I'm tripping balls. DeJuan Jones. And again, y'all know my love for DeJuan Jones. During the regular season, he was extremely unrefined. I don't know who gave this man his Wheaties, but whoever trained with DeJuan Jones in the offseason did an incredible job, because at the Senior Bowl, he was a different person. Because if you look at DeJuan at the Senior Bowl versus Chop, if that's like the way DeJuan was, then obviously I can, give him a little bit of slack. But DeJuan was kind of crap throughout the entire year and seemed to develop a lot over the offseason. And Chop had a very rough time versus the much worse version of DeJuan Jones. And I'm not a huge fan of that, especially when you're known for your top tier leverage, twist, burst, and power. So then you got Green Bay Packers going Joe Alt. I think especially with Bakhtiari rumors being gone, I think that's perfectly the best move that you can make. Not really going to spend too much time on that for our sake. New England Patriots don't have Emeka Egbuka. I have an affinity with Ohio State wide receivers going to New England. They never end up going there, but we'll still continue the trend because I still think it's an amazing move. Emeka is one of my favorite wide receivers in the class. So, just getting a reliable, consistent threat in Emeka, who's an elite route runner, good hands, good after the catch. He's just super solid all around. There's not much you can complain about Emeka. He's a really high-class player, so big fan of him. Commanders going Leatu Latu, who had to medically retire. Very surprised to see that he's going to be listed in this range, because there's still going to be some concerns, certainly, with that neck being in the long run. And we see guys who have medical concerns just dropping for no reason, pretty much. And I think Leatu might be in that realm. But I just personally don't feel like Leatu is up to snuff. I thought that he didn't play with enough power for his size. He's really lanky, but I don't feel like he used his length to properly gauge enough distance from players. There's a lot that he needs to work on, and I am all down for supporting UCLA and Washington Huskies. I am a huge fan of the Pac-12 for some reason. But the simple fact is, I don't really think that he's that impressive. And it's not like he's bad by any stretch. You guys can check out my edge rushing video. But there was certainly a lot more he could have done with his 265-pound frame. And I felt like I was watching a guy who's 245. So hoping that he gets a little bit better with his impact and just overall refinement of his game. But, he's a good player, but I'm just talking about him at number 11 is a wee bit high, in my opinion. You got the Giants going Malik Neighbors. Wide receiver is never a bad selection. Y'all already know my dream pick for them is here in Johnny Wilson. Falcons in going Leonard Taylor, my number one interior defensive lineman in the class. Again, check out that video where I break it down in significantly more depth. But Leonard Taylor, he is probably the best player on the field when he is on the field. The issue is, I think his conditioning is, needs a little bit of work. And I feel like the way that he plays, he should have a six-pack or getting close to it. And he has a little bit of a gut. So it's kind of weird for me to say it because, six-packs are for the elite of the elite athletes. But the way Leonard Taylor plays when he's at his peak really kind of lends itself to that body type over the ones who use their weight and just naturally should have more of that body fat on them. Like Leonard Taylor should be one of those like super ripped guys at that 300-pound range, just the supreme freaks, because that's just the way he plays with strength, speed, explosiveness. Like you're looking at somebody who should be like that. And when he has that conditioning issue, that's when I start looking for the reason why. And, that does pop off to me, but he is a freak of nature when he's going 100%. Steelers going Kalen King. My God, I would cry tears of joy for this. I know Kool-Aid McKinstry's on the board, and I personally would love that with all my heart. But pairing up Kalen King with Joey Porter Jr., I think it's worth doing that. Maybe you could do this pick swap because I'll just spoil it. Okay, the Bears got Dallas Turner, but I do that anyways. But Denver Broncos got Kool-Aid McKinstry. You could do a trade right there. Maybe we can add another 4th round pick. Who knows? But, Kalen King is just he's a great player. Best zone coverage corner in the class. He's a little bit undersized, sub 6 foot, 5'11" and a half. But, he plays a run better than most players. And, for me, I've seen that consistently out of Penn State when it came to Jaquan Brisker, when it came to Joey Porter Jr., when it comes to Kalen King. He knows how to play the run. Proper form. They deliver the boom. And, they know how to properly position their bodies to be able to get their arm in the pass lane. So, Kalen does have a little bit of issue here and there when it comes to, getting a little grabby. But that is what Penn State is. And to be fair, that is what the modern top tier corner is. I feel like if you're not the elite of the elite, grabbing is naturally what most of these corners do now. So hopefully, as time goes on and the Pittsburgh Steelers unlock Joey Porter Jr., we'll see them have a proper layout as to how to develop Kalen King, because they're coming from the same program, cut from the same cloth. So very excited to see that, because that's one of my dream fits. Again, you guys can check out the corner video, which I will be actually redoing in the next couple of months to add in that cool little grading scale for y'all. But yeah, Bears going Dallas. The Bears can always use some extra pass rush help. I think edge rusher is one of those positions I would target before anything else on their team. Without Khalil Mack, I feel like they've been kind of barren at that edge rusher position. I think if Gervin Dexter continues to develop, he was my number 14 player at the start of last year. He has that potential. I didn't like his regression step that he made, but he's already shown that potential again. So very excited to see him get back to that mold where I thought he could be. Dallas Turner could be an amazing elite addition for him, because I think Dallas Turner is the second coming damn near. I love that guy so much. But again, check out the edge rusher video to hear more about that. Denver Broncos going Kool-Aid McKinstry, going after a DB that can pair up with Patrick Surtain. They're both kind of, again, I'm going to use this term, cut out of the same cloth. I think my comp for Kool-Aid might be Patrick Surtain. Just one of the best man-to-man corners I've ever seen. He gets close to Sauce Gardner, and you guys know Sauce Gardner is my number one player in that class. And, Kool-Aid might be up there, if not better. But, this guy, 16 pass breakups, he's ridiculous. I mean, I fell in love with him. He's just so fun. Great player, and honestly, A+ name. Xavier Worthy for the Texans. I don't really understand this. I don't believe Tank Dell and Xavier Worthy should be on the same field at the same time. It's kind of a recipe for disaster, in my opinion, to have two guys who are sub 170 or 175 to be on the field. I think that you should be trying to prioritize a larger wide receiver. I like Nico Collins quite a bit, but I don't think he should be a number one. I think when you're looking at it, guys, I'm going to be very biased here, but Johnny Wilson, 6'7", 240 pounds, could be the exact thing that CJ Stroud would love. Honestly, I'm going to make my pitch right now. Johnny Wilson has unbelievable body control. So for a guy who's a, placement specialist like CJ Stroud, I think that this would be ideal for him. If CJ knows where to put it, that Johnny Wilson's able to secure it, turn away from the defender, and come down. He is kind of one of those guys who is consistently used on influencers' videos to show how to properly go up for a contested catch. I think that that's probably one of the best things you could do. If you don't want to go 240 pounds, go for his teammate Keon Coleman, who is in that 215-pound frame at 6'4". You can't go wrong with these Florida State receivers, but what you can go wrong with is getting someone who's undersized for a quarterback like CJ, who's so used to playing with Marvin Harrison, 6'4", Emeka Buka, 6, I believe, 1. Like, he's used to playing Jack Smith and Jigba, 6 foot. They are also over 200 pounds. Bigger guys. I think Xavier Worthy's 6'1", but he's a twig. I personally would recommend to go after somebody who's a little bit more complimentary to an elite route runner and who can get open in Tank Dell. Minnesota Vikings going Michael Penix Jr., and I'm not a huge fan of Michael Penix, just personally. I don't like a guy who can't finish the season except one. I don't think he has that powerful of an arm. I think his decision-making is spotty. That's the thing. I like Michael Penix as a player, but when he's getting this hype, I have to call him out for what it is. That's the truth. That's what I'm always going to give you guys. I'm going to give you guys the honest truth. Maybe that makes me look like the biggest douchebag on YouTube. I don't care. As long as I know that what I'm telling you is what I actually believe, that's fine. I had Ivan Pace Jr. at 52 or 53 on my board last year. He went UDFA. You know how stupid I felt for that? Felt pretty damn stupid, but I knew I was honest with you guys. All of a sudden, he's now named the starter of the Minnesota Vikings. So, again, I make some stupid decisions. Isaiah McGuire at number 2, for example. But, I am able to be 100% honest with you the whole time. So, what you see right here is exactly what I'm thinking. And I don't believe Michael Penix is that good of a quarterback. He's not bad by any stretch, but for a first-round pick, I don't believe this is a no-brainer. But, again, it's my opinion versus Connor Rogers. I'm not going to say I'm 100% right or Connor Rogers is 100% right. I'm just going to tell you that what I feel is honest, and what I'm telling you is exactly what my eyes told me. Does that mean it's exactly right? No. Otherwise, I'd be called Nostradamus. But again, I'm just going to be 100 with you. Saints going Cooper DeJean. I think he'd actually play safety as well, which is going to be super sick. I mean, I think that he could definitely end up being the long-term replacement for the Honey Badger too. So I'm intrigued to see where he'd be used here. This is honestly one of these sleeper dream fits that I haven't thought of yet. So cool for that. Cooper DeJean to the Saints. Seattle Seahawks going Chris Jenkins. He's up to 305 pounds. Even Michigan.com still has him listed at 285 pounds, including my own rankings. So RIP to that. But Chris Jenkins is a beast. I'm going to wait before saying much more because, again, you can check it out in my D-line video. But more importantly, we haven't seen him at 305. He put on 20 pounds. He was extremely powerful and very maneuverable at that 285-pound frame, and I thought that he played like 305. I don't know how he's going to play at 305. I saw DeMarvin Leal go from 285 to 305 and completely change his play style. So I'm going to hold off on that, but I think that going after, especially if he's even 90% as good as he was at 285, this is an A-plus move for the Seahawks. Jaguars going Cameron Kitchens. I think safety would not be a bad move whatsoever for the Jags. Going to Miami and getting a top-tier safety is going to be a great move. I'm not going to complain about that. Mason Smith for the Chargers. Just haven't seen him since he tore his ACL. I'm not going to give you guys in-depth information about somebody who I haven't seen. But 6'6", 300 pounds. Usually plays edge rusher too. Just a really freak athlete. I would love to see how he plays this year. Dolphins going Jordan Morgan. Super consistent. Definitely going to be one of those more reliable tackles. For me, I personally would go after the higher ceiling tackles here. I'm going to scroll down so you guys get to see a little bit more. For example, Amarius Mims, the easy one. But you can go after guys like Kingsley Suamataia. I actually still need to move him up my board. So should probably do that right after this. But I think that those guys are obviously better options in my eyes than Jordan Morgan. But, I have no shade to throw at Jordan. I just don't think he's a first-round pick. But he's a good player. He's a good player. He had torn ACLs. So, again, we got to see how he plays after that. Detroit Lions going Nate Wiggins. I've seen a lot of love for Nate. I ended up, unfortunately, starting out by watching him versus Johnny Wilson. And that was before I knew how much I love Johnny Wilson. So I kind of have, I watched him and graded him based on, his play versus that as well as a couple other games. And I was left with a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. He had a pretty rough start to the year, but then ended up getting better as the season went on. You see it right there, 12 PBUs, 98-yard pick six. He does have the potential. I've already hyped him up enough. He's my number 10 corner in the class, but that's mainly because I don't see him running 100% of the time. And he did get bullied by larger wide receivers, so there's definitely that in there. But he has a lot of potential for sure. TJ Tampa, I love seeing this love. You guys can go back and check out my stock videos, basically highlighting the players who did really well that week. TJ Tampa was a day in, day out. He was a weekly dude who ended up showing up on that list. He was a resident of the show pretty much. Very, very good statistically. Great size as well. Veteran experience. I don't know if he's going to be athletic enough for the Ravens, but I'm intrigued. But I believe he's over 6'2" as well. Good player, good vet, and actually, funnily enough, if you end up tweeting about him, his parents actually might like your tweet because I saw that, and that was actually pretty damn cool. It's great to see when families are super active and supporting their kids on Twitter too. So, cheers to TJ Tampa. I'm a big fan. I'm rooting for him. You got the New York Jets here going Amarius Mims, who's played both. I believe he's going to go to left tackle this year, but he definitely did a boss-ass move at right tackle at the end of last year for Georgia. So very intrigued where he's going to end up in the NFL. But talent is there. Jets need it. But, this should probably go to the Green Bay Packers. In the same situation, I honestly wouldn't mind if they ended up going Amarius Mims anyways. But, they went Joel earlier. If this were the Green Bay Packers, again, I'm just saying screw it. End up going Johnny Wilson. But, other positions they could end up going after. You got the safeties here at Kalen Bullock. I'm thinking that you could go James Williams as well. There's defensive interior you could try to add, but I don't think that's much of a necessity. There's not much that this team needs in terms of the Green Bay Packers. But, I think that you could go QB as well if you want to take a flyer and get that 5th-year contract. Dallas Cowboys going Patrick Paul. I love you, Connor Rogers. I am a fan of Connor Rogers. I'm just going to be 100 right now. I watched this Texas Tech game earlier today because I was like, I've seen Patrick Paul multiple times. I got to make sure I understand what I talk about. And that's why, like, I'll call myself out. I'll say, hey, I haven't watched this player. Like, y'all know. I watched the first game of Patrick Paul's that I watched because I watched that and then SMU. He got absolutely annihilated by Tyree. I'll actually, you know what? I'm going to read directly from my scouting report right now just for y'all because you guys deserve it. You guys are beasts. So I'm going to do it for y'all. So right now, in quotes, this guy is getting effed up by Tyree. Holy shit. So I do not agree remotely with the sentiment that he held his own. I'm just going to be 100% honest. That's from my report earlier today. Do not think he performed well at all. I think his lower body is absolutely atrocious. And, that's in terms of footwork, in terms of anchor. He didn't really understand the idea of a pocket. There were a lot of times where I actually saw some reps where he left a huge gap between himself and the guard because he saw a blitzer coming in from far. And naturally what you want to do is hold the pocket and then adjust for the blitzer. You don't want to, pretty much have like the inside of a donut hole opened up, wide up in terms of, hey, we got protection here. You got Homer Simpson chomping out like half of the damn donut. It's like a wide open hole. So I'm not a fan of that. And then when it came to I saw this one rep. He was trying to track and mirror an edge rusher. And I saw him straight up. Like, this is the pocket normally, guys. This is the pocket. He ended up going like that. The freaking quarterback was right here. He almost ran into the quarterback. So he collapsed the pocket on himself without having the edge rusher touch him. Blew my mind. Which might mean he ends up being a 5-star all-pro tackle. God only knows. Because usually when I absolutely detest an offensive lineman, like there's a 5% chance they end up being all pros. But Patrick Paul, to me, I've seen him in person. It was the same story versus SMU. There was no progression over the year either. I absolutely detest Patrick Paul as a prospect. But I hope that he gets his money. I hope he ends up proving me wrong. Again, I think good football is far better than me being right about players I don't like. So I hope Patrick Paul proves me wrong. And again, still love Connor Rogers, but heavily going to disagree to this because he ended up getting absolutely shellacked in that game. Cincinnati Bengals then going Jatavian Sanders. Tight end is the easy position to pigeonhole for him. Jatavian Sanders is a consensus top 3 tight end in the class. Depends if you love Jaheim Bell. I do. So next we got the Niners going J.C. Latham. He'll end up being their right tackle. And again, I have some issues in terms of his motor on the field. I don't know if Connor has seen Taliesin Fuaga, which not many people have. So I'll just admit it right now. It's one of my guys that I know like nobody knows about. But I think it's a name that will pop up during the year. J.C. Latham, on the other hand, he's going to be that household name. Everybody knows that Bama right tackle. Has a ton of potential, but dude, this guy needs to work on and refine his game. He has a lot of technical issues with his feet, with his hands. He's not very powerful for how powerful he should be. There's just a lot of unmet potential. And the thing that pisses me off the most when I watch football players is when they give up mid-rep, especially when you have Bryce Young as your quarterback, especially if you're an offensive lineman. He gave up mid-rep quite a few times, and that bothers me significantly. So I got to call out J.C. Latham for that. Then you got Troy Fautanu out of Washington. I'm going to be 100% honest. He is on my watch list. I've yet to finish watching him, so we'll save criticism for later, but he is projected as a guard. And I personally, if I'm Buffalo, would not be spending another top 50 pick on interior offensive lineman when I think Osiris Torrance is going to do a great job. I feel like the issue on the offensive line is that right tackle spot with Spencer Brown. I feel like that's going to be a little bit more valuable at that 30 spot. Great guy for that, Kingsley Suamataia out of BYU. Then we got Philadelphia Eagles breaking their tradition and then ending up going after Barrett Carter. Who knows? They'll probably just end up trading back for a 3rd-round pick and drafting him anyways because it's just a Howie thing not to draft linebackers in the 1st. Then you got KC ending off the draft with Rome Odunze. I'm not a fan of Rome. I'm just gonna call it out. He has great size. I feel like his role would be very intermatched, or that's not the right term, but it would interfere with Rashi Rice. I think that they should play a very similar role. A great athlete, good size, just somebody that I didn't really think put it together on the field. Now, does that mean he can't? Absolutely not. I think that he has the ability to certainly do so. But for a first round pick, I was extremely underwhelmed. I did not see remotely the talent that should be there. So that's just my point there. But I think Casey could certainly upgrade the wide receiver position. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. I think it's a good spot to go. But I just have a lot of guys who I have above that. That is going to be the video. Connor, still love y'all. Feel free to come on Draft Bros when we end up getting bigger. So that's kind of one of the main reasons we did that. Anywho, thank you so much for watching. See you on the far side. Peace.